What's up guys, it's Mega giving you yet another deck for Link Evolution. Today guys, we're doing a zombie deck. This deck was requested and it's actually a deck that my friend used to play a lot in the old Legacy, but now they've got a lot of new support and it's just, I decided why not, let's give this a try. I want to please note guys straight away, this is not my own work. This deck is actually Exodio del Juristia. I may have butchered that completely, but guys, here's in the description down below the link to his YouTube. Please give him a like. Please go like it. Please give him a subscription. He's the one for this hard work, because this deck is absolutely fantastic going first, because it is basically a zombie control deck, because zombie is all about control. It's like Zombie World but with the vampires mixed in, and it's just fantastically just controlling the board with your Trab and Barbaroach. If you're struggling to make this deck, guys, the index shown so far, check out the card hub. Now, if you tell you if the card is in its game or not, tell you where to find it, like a campaign jewel, any of the challenge mode jewels, and any of the card packs. That is in the description down below. Please check it out. And with that, let's get into the video. What's up, guys? And I can't believe I'm saying this for the third time in a row. We are not starting out with Ash Blossom. We've actually started off with one of our boss monsters in the deck, being 2 copies of Doom King Barbaroach. This guy is an absolute beast of a card, simply because he's very annoying, I'll be brutally honest. So during each and every standby phase, if you have a if a field spell is in play, that includes if your opponent has one or if you have one in play, you can special summon him from the graveyard, which is actually very cool. He's basically is the monster that doesn't die, because yeah, you do have to worry about being caught by the grave, but you can actually have a lot of like, you can just keep using him for synchro, also for like for link plays, and not even worry about it, because he just comes back all the time. His effect is once per chain, and you can activate and you can activate each of his effects per turn, but only once each. Please bear that in mind. So when a zombie monster on the field will activate its effect, Barbaroach can negate that effect, or you can banish one monster on the field or graveyard, which is actually pretty key, because a lot of monsters don't like to be banished or banished on the field or in the graveyard, or you can just flat out negate that zombie's monster effect. When you've got Zombie World in play, every monster on the field becomes a zombie, so when your opponent activates a monster effect, Barbaroach just shuts it down. 2 copies of Glow Up Bloom. This guy is a little tuner, and he's a level 1, which means you can link him away into Link Karibo to trigger his effect. And his effect is, if it's sent to the graveyard, no matter how it's sent there, you can banish it from your graveyard from play to add a level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to your hand. A lot of our cards are level 5 or higher, so it does fulfill that purpose. But if Zombie World is in play, you can special summon the monster instead, instead of adding it to your hand. So that means if Zombie World's in play, this little guy summons out Barbaroach. You can easily cheese him out straight away from the field. It's the main reason you use him again, and also because he's a tuner, you can special summon him with Halby Fibrax, or if he's on the field, you can just go into Halby Fibrax just to get him into the graveyard. We've got 1 copy of Gozuki. Basically, its effect is you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the grave, which is absolutely fantastic, because you can just send any monster near enough in a whole deck to the grave. Also has an effect where you can banish a monster in your graveyard from play to special summon a zombie from your hand. So he can special so he's actually very useful, can special summon a lot of monsters. 2 copies of Jacobolin. Jacobolin can discard any zombie monster again, gets him in the graveyard, that's what you want, to special summon himself basically. 3 months on the field, that means you use him right for like a link play, or just use him just as you could distribute him for our zombie plays. And also his effect, and also has a quick effect where during your opponent's main phase, you can target a zombie monster in either player's graveyard. And again, because if Zombie World's in play, monsters in their graveyard become zombies. So say for instance they have the boss monster in the grave, you can just banish Jacobolin from play and special summon their monster to your side of the field. It's actually pretty nice. And basically Jacobolin just resummons itself during the end phase, so you can just use that effect again. Then 2 copies of Menzuki. Menzuki can banish itself from the graveyard to special summon any one of your zombies. Zombies pretty great, it's not once per turn, so if you have multiple in the grave, you can just flat out just keep resurrecting your monsters. That lone copy of Necro World Banshee. If this little girl is in the graveyard, you can remove her from play to activate a Zombie World from your hand or deck straight to the field. And this is a quick effect, so you can use her even during your opponent's turn. Then we have going on some vampires. We are using the 1 copy of Shadow Vampire. This bad boy cannot be used for Xyz summon except for an Xyz monster, but he's level 5, which is kind of downside. We are using mainly 6s for our Xyzs. But when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon a dark vampire monster from your hand or deck. So the main reason you're going to run it just to special summon out a vampire, specifically our Surge monster. I'll get to him in a bit, and then he special summons a monster. The cycle keeps going on and on. We've got 2 copies of, is it Shiranu Solitaire? I really bushed up that name. I really can't pronounce this first one. And basically you attribute this bad boy to best special summon a zombie tuna monster from your deck with 0 defense points, i.e. either Unizombie or Glow Up Bloom, because both of them basically are going to plus you, so this card is never a dead hand. And then we are running the 3 copies of Unizombie. This is a card near enough you want to see turn 1, if not as soon as you can. So it has 2 effects on the field that can both activate in a turn. You can discard 1 card, target a monster on the field, increase its level by 1. And because the main time you're going to discard like a good zombie monster to the graveyard, really great. And also its other effect is you can send a zombie monster in your deck to the graveyard and increase 1 monster on the field's level by 1. Basically, you could just keep targeting this monster to just keep increasing its level, but being able to send a monster from the deck to the grave is huge, and then being able to send any card from your hand to the grave is also huge. And you can play both in a turn. Absolutely broken, guys. And also, because it is a tuner, like I say, you can go into Halby Firebrax with it, or special summon it off Halby Firebrax's special ability. On some vampires, we are running 3 copies of Vampire Familiar. If this little bad boy is special summoned, you get to pay 500 life points and add any one of your vampire monsters from your deck to your hand. Really great. And also, should it be in the graveyard, you can special summon it from your grave, which is absolutely cool because it triggers its own special ability, just by sending any vampire card from your hand or face up in the field to the graveyard. So even though your spells and traps or vampire sucker in your link zone can special summon out this bad boy. Downside is, guys, its effect is if it leaves the field through this effect, it is banished. And also another one called Vampire Familiar, or Vampire Retainer, sorry, has the same effect. But the thing is, say for instance you special summon Familiar with its effect, Retainer from its effect, you can't send it to the graveyard to special summon Familiar because it gets banished instead. It has to go to the graveyard to trigger Familiar's ability. Please bear that in mind. It can cause some misplays. Trust me, I've done it before in testing. Got like 1 copy of Vampire Throughline. Throughline is great to just basically block attacks. I normally search her if I know I can't beat my opponent and I want to basically just protect myself from my opponent basically. So when any monster declares an attack, that does include if you attack or if your opponent attacks, especially summon this card from your hand in defense mode. And its effect is once per battle. If a zombie monster battles an opponent's monster, you could pay life points to the maximum of 3,000, and your battling monster gains that much attack points. Kind of good. And at the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed any monster, you can just summon them from the graveyard to your side of the field. Kind of great to get over key monsters, because basically any monster with less than 3,600 attack points, she's going to be over. Vampire Grace is a good combo extender if she's in the graveyard. So when a level 5 or higher zombie monster is special summoned to your side of the field by the effect of a zombie monster, basically if you like special summon like Barbaroach from the graveyard, Vampire Grace's effect will trigger, letting you pay 2,000 life points, special summon herself from the graveyard. It is a steep cost to pay 2,000 life points, but with our magic card Vampire's Domain, you're easily going to get that back. She does have an effect where you can declare a monster, a card type, so monster, spell or trap, and your opponent does have to send one of them to the grave. I never use that effect. The reason why is because in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of monsters do tend to be in the graveyard, or spell or traps in the graveyard have graveyard effects. Don't particularly want my opponent to get hold of that, so I never play its effect to mill. We've got 3 copies of Vampire Retainer. This is basically the spell and trap version of Familiar. Familiar searches out vampire monsters. Retainer searches vampire spell and traps. Everything is identical apart from the fact it has a spell or trap. So it does add our zombies dominations, the main card I try and search for since it's an Omni negate. 2 copies of Vampire Scarlet Scourge. Scourge is a great monster to normal special summon, especially off of Shadow Vampire, because if this card is normal or special summon, can be either one, you can pay 1000 life points and special summon any vampire monster from your graveyard, except itself. So again, this bad boy, because it's special summoning, can trigger Retainer and Familiar's special abilities. And it also has a niche other ability. So if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle during the end phase of that, battle phase, you could special summon the monster you destroyed to your side of the field. And if you do, that monster will become level 6 if you go for an Xyz play. So really great, really. Oh, was that another monster's effect? No, was that? I think that was actually... No, that was that effect actually, yeah. So if it destroys any monster by battle, really great. Then we are going for some magic cards, guys. Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial lets us send 1 monster from our deck to the grave. Obviously, we have a full selection of monsters that love being in the graveyard. You could send Necro World Banshee if you want to get Zombie World. If you've already got Zombie World, you could flat out just send Bloom to the grave so you can summon out Barbroach. You could send Menzuki so you can special summon a monster from your grave. You could send one of your vampires like Familiar or Retainer so you can special summon them by discarding a vampire card. Your world is your oyster with Foolish Burial. Just do whatever you want to do depending on the situation. Monster Reborn is a combo extender, lets us special summon monsters. Again, because if you special summon like Barbroach from the grave with Monster Reborn, if Grace is in the grave, her effect's going to trigger. If you've got Vampire Sucker in play, you're going to draw a monster because a zombie monster was resurrected from the grave. Go for it. Got 1 copy of 1-for-1. Lets us set up our monsters because you have to send a monster from your hand to the grave, sets them up in the grave, and then you get special summon level 1 monster from your hand or deck. So this summons are Familiar or Glow Up Bloom. Again, depending on the situation, depends on which one you get a special summon. Got those 2 copies of Super Polymerization because we are running cards that lets us because we're running a lot of cards that just let us special summon at absolute ease. So this is a great card. You discard a card, can get that card in the graveyard if you need it, and then you can fusion summon during your opponent's turn or your turn because it's a quick play, and you can special summon or you can use monsters during either player's field. So you could use your opponent's field, you could use your own field, especially because Zombie World forces all monsters your opponent controls to become zombies. So you could just fuse 2 of your opponent's zombies to go into one of our fusions. If they control 2 darks, you can target 2 of them to go into a fusion play. You always do a Super Polymerization. Got that 1 copy of Vampire's Desire, because it has Vampire in its name, you can discard it in order to play Familiar or Retainer. And its effect is you can target a face-up monster you control, send a vampire monster from your deck to the grave. Obviously that sets up your vampire monster, that's kind of great. And then the monster you targeted becomes the level of the monster you send. So if you, for instance, send Vampire Grace because you want to have go for a rank 6 Xyz play, your monster is going to become at level 6. Then its other effect is you can target a vampire monster in your graveyard, send a monster you control to the grave, special summon that vampire. Again, if you have that Glow Up Bloom, it's a great way to send Bloom to the grave to resurrect a vampire monster from your graveyard. Then 3 copies of Vampire's Domain. This lets you normal summon another vampire monster by paying 500 life points, which is actually not a bad effect. Also has another effect where each time a vampire monster will inflict battle damage to your opponent, you gain life points equal to the damage that your opponent took. So if you inflicted 2,200 with Vampire Scarlet, you would gain 2,200 life points, and that's how you would basically recur your life points from all your Vampire's steep costs. 3 copies of Zombie World, absolute key in this deck because Barbroach, Glow Up Bloom rely on it. Necro World Banshee lets you special summon it, and it's absolutely fantastic. All monsters on the field become zombies, and all monsters in the graveyard become zombies as well. That does include your opponent's cards as well. And then we've got 2 copies of Vampire Domain. Fantastic trap, guys. So when a spell, trap or monster effect is activated while you control a vampire monster, you can negate the activation if you do destroy it. And if it was a monster that you destroyed with this card's effect, you gain life points equal to its tap points. Which is again, absolute sweet, because not only can you negate like a monster effect, or if you've got a Barbroach, you can just basically negate a spell or trap. But if you did destroy that monster, you get some sweet life points. On to some onto some extra deck monsters, guys. I'm running the lone copy of Chimeritek Fortress Dragon. This is not in the deck that I got this off, but the reason why I decided to add this in is because I go, especially in ranked, the one main card I go up, or main deck I go up against a lot is actually Cyber Dragon players. So by using Chimeritek Fortress Dragon, I can like nick their own monster. I believe I could do it that way because with super polymerization, I can like basically fuse one of the Cyber Dragons and a machine together to form this bad boy. I believe that's how I'll do it. But if not, you can take it out and play like any other card. I just ran this because of Cyber Dragons. For my replays, I didn't actually go up against one, which is actually funny enough. But you could actually take it out and put other cards in. I just did it for the Cyber Dragon play. On to some other cards, guys. We're running Drago Necro Never Soul Dragon. It's a bit of a mouthful, really. This bad boy requires 2 zombie monsters per summon. Again, if you've got Zombie World in play and you use Super Polymerization, you could just target 2 of your opponent's zombies and special summon out this bad boy. And its effect is it can't destroy monsters by battle, which is kind of downside, but if it battled a monster, that monster's attack points become 0. Then you get special summon a token whose attack points are equal to the monster you just battled. So say for instance you go up against, I don't know, Red Eyes Black Dragon, who's got 2,400 attack. Necro Dragon attacks into it, you deal 600 points of damage, obviously because your monster's stronger. Red Eyes isn't destroyed. You special summon a token to your side of the field, who will then gain attack points equal to Red Eyes', which is 2,400. And then Red Eyes' attack points become 0. So basically you get a free token off the field that can basically just overpower the monster that they battled, because that monster goes down to 0. Then you have that one copy of Earth Golem at Ignistar, because again, if you're against a Cyverse monster plus a link, you can obviously fusion summon this with Super Polymerization. It's another Super Poly target. Again, because apart from like Cyber Dragon, Cyverse is a very popular again in this game for like ranked matches especially. So it gets around a lot of like pesky decks that rely on Cyverse cards. After this card is fusion summoned, you take no damage for the rest of the turn, which is actually pretty sweet. And also, if this card attacks a monster or special summoned, this card doubles its attack points, which is actually up to 4,600, which is pretty nice. And then we are running Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. So if you've got 2 dark monsters on the field, near enough all of our monsters I think are dark. And if your opponent obviously runs dark, you can steal all of their monsters as well, especially from this bad boy. So when Starving Venom is fusion summoned, you can target 1 monster that was special summoned on your opponent's side of the field. Starving Venom will gain an attack equal to that monster's attack, which is pretty nice. Also, you can target a level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls. Starving Venom will gain that monster's name and effect, and its effect is absolutely sweet. Has another effect as well, has even more, where if it's destroyed, it can destroy all special summon monsters your opponent controls. So it's kind of like a nice nuke the field. On some mixed seasons, guys, we are running 1 copy of Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. You need 2 level 6 monsters. Kind of easy with Vampire Scourge because you can just, whatever monster you destroy, you can like, if it's a level 6, go into it. But if you play Vampire Scourge, you can resurrect Vampire Grace, go into Beatrice, and her effect is you can use 1 overlay unit during either player's turn to send a card from your deck to the grave. So you could send any one of your vampires, it's just set the graveyard. Absolute great. Running 1 copy of Damper Vampire Sheldon. What a name. So this is the card I was on about with Scourge. So when Scourge would destroy a monster, you get special to your side of the field. If you control a monster your opponent controls, you could treat it as a level 6 if you're going to exceed summon this card. So whatever monster Vampire Scourge destroys, you could just special summon going to this bad boy. And it has a pretty nice effect. So once per turn, you could attach 1 exceed material and target 1 card your opponent controls on the field, sent to the grave. Great for back row removal, great for just getting rid of your opponent's monsters. And also, if a monster is sent from the field to your graveyard, to your opponent's grave by a card effect or by battle, you can detach 1 exceeds material and special summon basically the monster you destroyed to your side of the field, which is again pretty nice. Then we're running number 24, Duelist, the Vampiric Dragon. So during either player's turn, you can attach one exceeds material, target one monster or special summon from the extra deck, flip a change sound defense mode. Obviously it doesn't work against link monsters, but it can disrupt your opponent's plays because if they are basically using any form of like synchro, exceeds, pendulum or fusion monsters, that you can flip them face down, and then obviously if they're face down, they can't play their effects, and also they can't be used for link summoning. And if this card on the field is basically if this card is sent to the graveyard or banished by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon it in face down defense mode. And if this card is flipped face up, you can send one card on the field to the grave. So you can use this card's own effect to target itself, flip it face down, and then you just flip it during your turn to just send one card your opponent flats out to the graveyard. Using on some links cards, I've got a copy of Avenged Survivor. You need 2 zombie monsters special on this bad boy, and its effect is, well, you can't use its first effect, but its second effect, you can, during damage calculation during either player's turn, so if you attack into a monster or if your opponent attacks into it, you can send any one of your zombie monsters to the grave. Your opponent's monster loses attack equal to that monster's level times 200. So if you've got, for instance, Zombie World in play, you can just send Barbaros to the grave. Your opponent monster will lose 1600 attack points, and you will then best summon Barbaros during your next turn because you've got a field spell in play. Got that one copy of Borrowsword Dragon. We're using Borrowsword just to help us close out games. So it can't be shown in battle, nice effect. It has a quick effect where you can target one monster in the field, swap it to defense mode. You can do that during either player's turn, so you can use that for the defensive play if you really want. And if you use it during your turn, Borrowsword can attack twice during that turn, which is pretty nice. And then it has another effect where if it attacks into a monster, it gains half that monster attack, and then your opponent loses that attack. So that's pretty sweet to just close out games and just go for the power. Using that one copy of Crystalline Harpy Fibrax, you need 2 monsters including a tuner. So if you've got that Uni Zombie or if you have Glow Up Bloom, you could just go into Harpy Fibrax, special summon basically the opposite one that you didn't use to link summon this bad boy. Helps you link climb into Nightmare Unicorn, and also it gets him into the graveyard. So if you've got that Glow Up Bloom, you could just link summon into Harpy Fibrax, just because then you can trigger Bloom's effect to basically special summon a level 5 or higher monster. And that's the main reason why you would use Harpy Fibrax. Using some Nightmares, we've got 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix and 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Nightmare Phoenix lets you, upon being link summoned, discard a card. Could be key if you need that monster in the graveyard or card in the grave. And then you can target a spell, trap your opponent controls, and destroy it. Pretty nice effect. And then we have Nightmare Unicorn, where if it's link summoned, again you have to discard a card. Could be that key card that you need. And then you get to target 1 card in the field, return it to the deck. Pretty sweet effect, and also Unicorn and Phoenix share this effect, where if it was co-linked when you activated this effect, you get to draw a card, which is actually pretty nice. And then we're running that copy of Linkuriboh. It gets Vampire Familiar into the graveyard if you want to play Familiar's effect, and also does the same for Glow Up Bloom if you want to trigger out Bloom's effect. And then finally we've got 2 copies of Vampire Sucker. Because she has the word vampire in her name, it works with all your vampire domination, because obviously it has vampire. You can send it to the graveyard via the effects of Familiar and Retainer to special summon. You can special summon it back to the field via Scourge, because again she's a vampire. You could do a lot of things just because she has the word vampire in her name. If this and her effects are on field, if you would control, so if you're going to tribute summon a monster, you can tribute a zombie your opponent controls. Which again, if you have Zombie World in play, if you want to normal summon out Vampire's Grace or Vampire Scourge, if your opponent's monster becomes zombies because of Zombie World, trigger their own monster. Don't need to waste yours. Then you can summon a monster off a Scourge if you normal summoned him. And then its other effect is should a zombie monster be special summoned from either's graveyard, he gets to draw a card, and she can target a monster your opponent controls, or she can special summon a monster from your opponent's graveyard to a defense position, which means you can force her effect to draw a card, which is actually a pretty sweet effect. And that's it for the deck, guys. I will warn you, in the replays, a lot of people leave simply because they just can't handle Barbaroach being absolutely annoying, as well as they can't handle the fact that you have Vampire Sucker and Vampire Domination is an Omni Negate on top of Barbaroach. So I do hope you kind of bear with the amount of people just flats out leaves, rage crits in a way. So wherever you are in the world, guys, please take care. If you like this deck, hit that thumbs up. Again, all credit goes to El Exordio del Duelistia, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Again, it'll be in the description. Please give him some love for this fantastic deck. And guys, take care. Goodbye.
send shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons speak with such a screech. You will shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek.
We're so sorry, skeletons, you're so misunderstood.